Hey guys, how's everybody today?
Hey there, everybody.
Great to see you all. So, you know what? I have an issue that I would like to discuss, and I'm hoping that the four of us can come up with some solutions for our educator colleagues, because I am seeing a lot of worksheets and packets in classrooms, especially at the elementary level. And I'm wondering what we can offer those educators who need alternative solutions. For example, I'm seeing some kids really struggling with legible letter formation, and they're so distracted by how to control their pencil and the visual motor control that they're just not getting it. They're not getting the worksheet. They're not getting the packet. Some of them can't read it. It's above their independent reading level. So they are giving, so they're, I hear teachers say, well, that's okay, we read it to them. What do we think about that?
Well, here's my first thought, Karen, and that is, do you feel like this has escalated post-pandemic since we've come back to in-person learning now for a few years? Because it's what certainly this was a problem before. Are you seeing it more after, or is it about that we're going back to the same levels as before the pandemic?
Chris, that's what I'm seeing. And I also hear a lot of educators say, well, they have so much screen time, we're trying to get them away from the screens. But again, is paper inclusive for our kids with learning variabilities? We've got a lot of issues around independent reading, the fluency, the understanding, the comprehension, as well as demonstrating what they know using paper and pencil. So I'm seeing a return and, in fact, a deliberate, intentional decision. We've got to get them away from the screens. They spend too much time on the screens.
And Karen, do you think that's the driving force, or do you think that this is my devil's advocate approach to this right now? Is this the what? Let me formulate a question. Why are people so likely to use a packet beyond this idea that it's away from a screen? What could be a perceived benefit of that? What do you think, Chris?
Well, yeah, I haven't. It's twatty, right?
Yeah.
This is what I know. Always done it this way. And by the way, if I'm evaluated on my test results, most of my kids do fine. So why change?
And I think also there's this perception from educators who perhaps haven't, even during the pandemic when they had to do screen-based things, still don't have a comfort level with setting up kids independently or even collaboratively for digital options. And so teachers are so burned out and so overloaded that it's easy. It's easy to grab that packet, have, either them or their para make those copies and then be able to hand those out. And I think a lot of times it's done when teachers are trying to do their small groups. I mean, when you talk about it, those elementary, when they're trying to do their small reading or their small math groups, and they need their students in their classrooms to be occupied doing something learning, right? And so I think it's
Oh,
right.
Karen liked that word.
Yeah.
Oh, that really, she
Occupied,
liked that.
compliant.
Right.
Mm.
And I think it's that they can't monitor. There is a reality that there are students that when they're on their Chromebooks, that they go off and they do other things. And there are tools in place for teachers to be able to monitor it. There's great tools in place, Go Guardian and other things where they can monitor it. But if you're teaching a small group, you're not monitoring that. And again, I think it gets at often at what's a larger issue. It's what's teacher ease and they're trying to get through their day. Now, that doesn't make it the right thing to do. And I also want to say it's not simply they're giving them paper, it's that they're giving them time fillers all too often. Want to reduce screen time? That's great. Have students play a cooperative game. There's things that you can do that are not tech involved that you can accomplish without it being a fill in the blank worksheet, right?
And I think what we always say is it depends what is it the learner needs to do, what is it the learner wants to do. That always drives what we recommend. But so let's just talk about some options. Beth, you just mentioned some non-techie options, which are great. But again, it does depend what is it the learner wants to do or needs to do. And I do want to, highlight a couple of things. Especially when we think about promoting independence, when we read things to our learners, and what if they didn't get it the first time? How do they get it back? So, again, we mention a lot of these strategies in our book. We are not vendors for any of these products, but like the reader pen for in the moment, on the fly decoding can really, I've seen it support a lot of elementary age kids.
So you only need the reader pen if it's on a piece of paper, right?
Right.
Because if it's on a screen that it's with the text is accessible, then you can listen to it and you can have dual highlighting and you can change the font size and you can make notes and comments using your voice or type in.
Absolutely.
So that seems to be a very selective use case is when, well, I've handed paper, so now I'm going to use my pen.
Right, exactly. And no matter what we recommend here, when it's helping to decode a paper-based product, we're really promoting the whole concept of when it's digital, it's accessible, and we're not leaving anyone out. And, Seesaw at the elementary level, Seesaw is another awesome option because of the ability to record your voice, because of the ability to hear the teacher's voice multiple times repeating the directions. So we want to think inclusively.
And even thinking those OCR solutions that we have right in our Google Drive and things like that might be able to take a document. Where did this packet come from? It probably was a PDF. Chances are high it was a PDF. There might be some people that still have it as a paper book somewhere. But I think a lot of times these things start as PDFs that someone is then printing out and handing out. So the PDF is there. And, what do we always promote? Options. Give you the option as the PDF.
Yeah. And with that option, I want to kind of bring it back to you because a digitized worksheet is still a worksheet, right? And it might be accessible, but it's still a worksheet. And as opposed to thinking creatively about, okay, what can students be doing instead of that worksheet, right? It's again, I had a conversation last night with my daughter. She is in graduate school right now. She needs to read. She had a list of books, she had a long list of books to choose from. So there's a book they have to read. They had a choice of different books and she's procrastinated. And so it's due soon. And she's like, well, I got it. What's the shortest? She's like, what's the shortest book? And this is my daughter who has dyslexia. And I was like, oh, I recommended one to her because some of the books were books I'd read. And I recommended one to her and she's like, all right, I'm going to order it right now on Amazon. I'm like, you can get that on Kindle. And she's like, no, mommy, I have to have a paper book. Her personal choice as an individual who has some reading challenges is a paper, but that's her choice, right? She could have gotten it as a Kindle. She could have gotten it as a paper book. Right. But that's her choice. So it's like making sure we're not removing choices, but it's more about the quality. Right. So going back to that, like it's a digitized worksheet. Well, it's still a worksheet, right? It's still like what is the, what's the level of we talk about empowerment a lot. What's the level of engagement? What's the level of empowerment? Is it simply a time filler? Is it simply to occupy that student? Or is there something that's really rich that's going to happen from it? Is there something else, that they could be doing?
So
I know what that something else can be. Beth, you said earlier about how there's all these perceived problems that teachers have. Like, if you ask any teacher, what's your biggest barrier? They'd be like, time. I don't have time. And then we have this whole group of people that are hungry to do something with their time that is not just a time filler. The learners, right? Like, what if we said, all right, teachers, educators, what kind of problems do you have? Well, I need stuff to be read out loud. I have a bunch of learners over here that are practicing reading things out loud, practicing reading. What if we merge those? Give the learners some sort of authentic problem to attack. They will not jump out of the Chromebook tab to go play some sort of video game because they'll be so engaged in trying to solve that problem. So empowered to do something meaningful with their time that isn't just filling out a worksheet.
So what I'm hearing is we have so much more to contribute. I'm wondering if there should be a part 2.
There probably could be a part 3, 4, 5,
Yes.
6, and I think this could be a whole series. Sure.
Yeah, let's move on. We'll save it for a part 2.
Sounds good.
Such a great conversation. I'm always so thrilled to hear from great minds, and I thank you, co-authors. You are the best.
Good
Thanks
stuff.
for bringing it up, Karen.
Nice job, Karen.